Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and a very warm welcome to my non-spoiler review of Shazam! Fury of the Gods, directed by David F. Sandberg. It's the sequel to 2019 Shazam, also directed by David F. Sandberg. Shazam! Fury of the Gods is about a young man who's feeling the pressure and doesn't think he's good enough. He's comparing himself to Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. He's also feeling that he's not taking responsibility for his foster siblings. Just like he had no choice in the matter in getting these powers, the wizard Shazam gave him these powers without asking his permission. He gave his siblings these powers without their permission. So now they have these powers, like it or not, and there's a lot of consequences for the Shazam family and Billy because he did this. It's very hard for, his foster siblings, and, he feels bad about that. So he feels a responsibility towards his foster siblings, and he doesn't feel he's doing a good enough job. Now, what about the villains of this movie? So basically, we have Lucy Liu, Dame Helen Mirren, and newcomer Rachel Ziegler, who are basically the three goddesses of Atlas. And basically, they feel their powers were taken away from them. So they want revenge and they want their power back. I suppose the analogy of what they're doing is, I suppose, kind of the war between Israel and Palestine, and how both sides think they're justified in what's happening. No, we're the victims, and you never know really who's right and wrong. It really depends what side you're on. That's the situation with the goddesses of Atlas. Are they in the right? They're hurting people. They're putting the world in danger. They're putting innocent members of the public in danger. And it's all collateral damage to them. And that's the element where they're coming from. So there is some kind of sympathy here. And it's a very interesting dynamic between Rachel Ziegler, Dame Helen Mirren, and Lucy Liu. But each role is defined in a very, very interesting way. Let's just say that one of the sisters is very aggressive, unrelenting, has no compassion, and doesn't think twice about what she's doing. There's another member of the family who really starts to think about what's going on here and starts to doubt their mission. And then you have another member of the family. Hey, let's just say Rachel Ziegler. She's a younger version. She's the youngest sister. And she really is, let's just say it, she ain't evil. And really, she's just a young kid exploring this new world. And she really hits it off with Freddie Freeman. Jack Dylan Glazer. Is that his name? Jack Dylan Glazer. Again, just like the first film, is absolutely fantastic in this film. He's such a good actor. But this is different in this film because basically he sometimes, of course, has another actor playing him. And it's the guy who played Seth from the OC, which I think is brilliant casting. And he also does a very good job in the role. And there's a lot of playing around with kind of, dual identities and things like that, and who you can trust with your secret dual identity and who you can't. So Freddie Freeman shines in this film again, as does Rachel Ziegler, but so does Lucy Liu, and so does Dame Helen Mirren. So these villains are very, very interesting. Now it's up to you to decide whether you feel that, the goddesses of Atlas are justified in feeling that their power was taken from them and their right to get revenge and take their powers back by any means necessary. And I think that's a situation, again, you can only decide for yourself. But it is a very, very interesting dynamic. Visually, this film is stunning. It doesn't put a foot out of place. I think David F. Sandberg has done a very good job directing this movie. Listen, I think it's a movie, when you go there, you're going to love it. You're going to enjoy it. It's another good movie in the DC Extended Universe. And I think there's lots of movies you can say, I went to the cinema and I enjoyed it. I went to the cinema and enjoyed MOS and BVS, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, the first Shazam, the Suicide Squad, Black Adam, even that film, which isn't the greatest of films, I enjoyed it while I was watching it. And I think this is a much better film than Black Adam, and there's no question about it. It's a very, very funny film. It has a lot of humour. Sometimes the gags don't hit, but most of the gags do. So as I say, you will have a really, really good time with this movie. But like most movies that are part of a brand and a part of an IP, you won't remember it 6 months down the line. It isn't for me, doing a review on a movie, to discuss the box office projections. That's something different. We'll discuss that another time. But I think it's a really entertaining movie, and if it's not successful, that's a big shame. But I don't want you to misunderstand me. This is not just a gag fest. This is not a sitcom. This film has very emotional and really good character dynamics in it. And I think every member of the cast does a very good job, especially Asher Angel, Jack Dylan Glazer, and, you know, the rest of the Shazam family as well. You know, the film doesn't miss a beat in terms of character interactions. And I really enjoyed the film in terms of that. But this is Shazam's movie. This is Billy Batson's movie. Make no mistake about that. As I said on the top of this review, he's really under a lot of pressure. He doesn't feel he's doing enough as a superhero. And even though he's close to his family, and in the first film, he spent a lot more time with Freddie Freeman, really, this is a singular story. Now, as I say, the rest of the characters get their subplots and all of that, but this really is a film about Shazam. You know, it's about Billy Batson and about him accepting his limitations, but also fronting out. These are a bunch of villains that really are much more powerful than the Shazam family, but also the Shazam family, you know, Billy's foster siblings and Billy himself are very pure people, and they're not ruthless. They're not Batman, and they're fighting very ruthless villains who will do whatever it takes. But empires are destroyed from within, and these sisters, well, let's just say there's different dynamics there, and I think you're going to enjoy what happens between these sisters. So I think it's very cleverly done how these villains are defeated in the end. And it's not all to do with the superheroes. It's the dynamics and relationships between these three sisters as well. So it's very interesting. There's a lot of sweetness and tenderness to this movie as well. And I think take your kids, take your girlfriends, take your boyfriends, whoever. I think you can have a good, solid time with this film. I think it probably is a 4 out of 5. As I say, this is not the greatest movie of all time, and that's okay. I said the same thing about Black Adam. This is way beyond better than Black Adam. But this is not a bad movie. This is not a bad movie at all. It's a solid, enjoyable movie. I think it's a step up from the first movie, which I really enjoyed, and many, many people really enjoyed. But I think, yeah, if you're looking for the Dark Knight, if you're looking for the Joker, this is not what you're going to get with this film. But you will be entertained. The action set pieces are brilliant. It's pretty clear that they spent a lot more money on this film. The soundtrack is absolutely fantastic. Mostly soundtracks in the DCEU are pretty solid. Some of them are more memorable than others. I think that what Rupert Gregson-Williams did with Wonder Woman and Aquaman was fantastic. Hans Zimmer with Man of Steel, Hans Zimmer and Junkie XL with BVS, then Junkie XL with the Snyder Cut. There are some that are more memorable than others, but this is a really, really good soundtrack as well. So this film really doesn't offer, I don't think, many surprises if that's what you're looking for. It ticks every box. It does what you expect it to do, but that doesn't take away from the enjoyment of the film. And sadly, this might be the last time we see these characters interact. So just go there and enjoy it. As I say, I'm going to give this film 4 out of 5. It's solid without being the greatest thing of all time. And of course, not every CBM has to be the greatest one of all time, but I really enjoyed it. As I said, Jack Dylan Glazer is the highlight of this film as Freddie Freeman, as he was in the first film. He is the best thing about it, but also Lucy Liu and Dame Helen Mirren are absolutely fantastic. I don't know how they got Dame Helen Mirren to be in this movie. Well, obviously, it's money, and she said she really wanted to do the film as well. But, they do really well. I think the dynamic between Lucy Liu and Dame Helen Mirren is a lot of fun, very interesting, a very dark kind of dynamic there. And, those two characters don't always see eye to eye, which I think is a very, very interesting dynamic because, it's different in the first Shazam film. You've only got Dr. Savannah, and Mark Strong does an excellent job. But when you've got 2 or 3 villainesses and they've got to play off of each other, that's an interesting, different dynamic. Now, if you ask me who I prefer out of Mark Strong's Dr. Savannah or the Goddesses of Atlas, I'm going to have to say Mark Strong as Dr. Savannah. What I like about Mark Strong as Dr. Savannah is we meet him as a child, we see his struggle with his brother and his dad, and we can see the reasons why he becomes what he becomes. So there's a lot less sympathy for these villains. They're not really, I don't think, supposed to be sympathetic villains. I think maybe Rachel Zegler's character you're supposed to have a little bit more compassion for, because ultimately, and spoiler alert, it's supposed to be a non-spoiler review, but who cares at this point? She's supposed to be a more sympathetic character, and I don't view her as one of the villains in this movie. But she, this is a newcomer. She's only done 2 or 3 movies at this point, and she does really play well with Lucy Liu and Dame Helen Mirren. You're not talking about 2 actors of, great talent, very famous, big egos. So that would have been very difficult, but apparently, they looked after her, they put her under their wing, and that's really good to hear as well. So there's great dynamics between those characters as well. But yeah, really, you're going to watch this film for the Shazam family, but especially Billy Batson. And the shout out for the Wizard Shazam, who is back like he was. He was in the first Shazam. He was great. We saw him just a little bit in Black Adam. He was great there as well. Surprisingly, The Rock allowed that cameo in that movie because he's an important character, really. He's the only thing that connects Shazam and Black Adam at the end of the day. But he gets a little bit more to do in this film. There's some comedy, there's some drama. In a lot of ways, he's pretty much Billy's mentor in this movie, and Billy does go to him for solace, and I found that, again, a very, very interesting dynamic. So I would give him, a shout out, a special shout out. He's a great actor. He does a really, really good job with his role as well. So yeah, I just feel that this is a solid movie, and you shouldn't really expect anything more from it. I don't think you should. I don't think you have the right to expect anything more from it. It's a great movie. It's a really solid DC movie. You'll have a good time with it. But don't expect anything more than that. Because ultimately, the event of the year is the Flash movie. We judged this year's DC on the Flash movie. That's the one everyone's talking about. But how I would describe this film is a great first start for a huge year for DC content. This has been Movies TV Mad. I am Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you again in the next video. Until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.